first big idea. It's the decision to set out on a new path. It's the realization that entrepreneurship starts with the spark, and that spark starts here. At the Stu Clark Center, we're here to nurture your ideas and help spark your entrepreneurial spirit. How? How about competitive opportunities for freedom inner entrepreneurs, advice from venture coaches who have walked the walk, or some of the best networking events you'll find on campus? You'll find it all right here. By focusing on education, awareness, community, coaching, and connection, we build strong relationships with our students and do everything we can to help them on their journey to self-starting. At the Stu Clark Center, we thrive when you thrive. No idea is too big or too small. The Stu Clark Center is a one-stop shop for everything you need to start your journey. So why not start today?
Good morning and welcome everyone to today's webinar as part of our 2021 winter webinar series here at the Stu Clark Center. Very excited to be with you and thank you so much for joining us today for what's going to be another really exciting webinar with a very special guest who is an expert in the personal branding and entrepreneurship space. So very happy for you all to be with us here today. It's going to be another great webinar. Before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping items and Zoom etiquette reminders. Your video is absolutely optional. However, we do ask that you please stay on mute throughout the webinar. We will be having a Q&A session following the main delivery of the webinar. So please do not hesitate to ask any questions in the chat. We will use the chat function. And last but not least, this webinar will be recorded and it will be uploaded to our online resources section of the website. So if you do need to leave early or if you'd like to rewatch it, you absolutely can, and you can find the webinar online with all of our others. I would like to quickly introduce to you our Stu Clark Center for Entrepreneurship team, Deborah Jonason-Young, our director, Lindsay Friesen, our program coordinator. My name is Joshua Zapperzant, and I'm the venture coach. And last but not least, the newest member of our team, Roxanne Scarth, our office administrator. A big welcome to you, Roxanne, and so happy to have you part of our team. This is our awesome team at the Stu Clark Center. If you have any questions whatsoever about what we do or how we can help you on your entrepreneurial journey, please do not hesitate to reach out to any one of us. We're here to help and support however we can. You can find us online at umanitoba.ca/entrepreneur and also follow us on Instagram at Stu Clark Center for all the latest news, updates, and to stay in the loop. I would like to quickly remind those of you on the call that are aware of the Venture Coach program, and for those of you that maybe not, I'd like to tell you a little bit about it. But the Venture Coach program is an absolutely free resource for any students here at the University of Manitoba in any faculty. A great resource to help lead you into startup land, no matter what stage your business is at or no matter what faculty you are in. You can book in a free meeting by visiting us online at our website, and we'll have a free one-on-one meeting where you can ask any questions, learn more about entrepreneurship. If you have any questions about your business idea and looking for help and guidance on how to start, we're here to help and support. So highly encourage you to reach out and take advantage of the program. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is part of our larger webinar series, and time's been flying by. We've had a fantastic series so far, and again, they're all recorded on our website. We do have one more webinar after today on May 5th, Building a Social Enterprise, that is going to be really exciting. So please do not hesitate to feel free to RSVP to that one on Startup Tree, just like you RSVP'd for this one. That being said, I will also encourage you to stay tuned, follow us on Instagram, and check back on our website shortly because we will be releasing a brand new lineup of upcoming webinars in the near future here, which we're super excited about to continue another series. So please stay tuned for that. Okay. And with that in mind, today is all about you and your personal brand and building a personal brand. And it is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you today's guest presenter from the University of Manitoba, Professor Fang Wan. Dr. Fang Wan is a professor of marketing and Ross Johnson Research Fellow at the Asper School of Business at the University of Manitoba. She joined the Asper School in 2003, and her research interests include brand management, cross-cultural consumer psychology, and entrepreneurship and leadership. Professor Fang is a founder and owner of two companies, and with one of them really being the goal of empowering female entrepreneurs. So she has a great wealth of knowledge in this entrepreneurial space. Professor Wan has also been pursuing an integrative approach to teaching, researching, and brand consultation. Her passion for branding and immersion into the brand world not only makes Dr. Wan a keen observer and researcher of brand strategies, but also equips her with refreshing lenses via which her brand teaching and consultation are conducted. Her brand workshops have won raving reviews from participants on both sides of the Pacific Ocean, and she is actively pursued by professional and business communities as a guest speaker. Dr. Wan has been applauded as a powerful speaker who inspires and energizes her audience, and we could not be more excited to have her with us today. So, Professor Wan, welcome. It is so great to have you with us today. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And good to see that on webinar, at least I can see you. It's amazing how we evolve over time. I think last year, starting March, my class actually on campus was the first Zoom class, and this event was reported. And then we evolve into this online teaching. And I know that a lot of, there are some participants there, watching it from their own device, could be on the phone, could be on the iPad. It really revolutionized how we learn and how we teach. So, and there are a lot of associated opportunities. So anyways, I am very happy because I've been delivering personal brands all over the world, from Israel to US to Vancouver to China. Pre-pandemic alone, I have, I think, 14 speeches booked in China and delivered to 14 cities. And I did, it's the first time that actually I connect to entrepreneurship centers through Clark. So I think it's very nice that the dots and lines are finally connected. So I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, we're very excited to have you too, and you do have a great wealth of experience in this space and entrepreneurship. So very excited to have you here. Thank you so much again. I'll pass the floor to you, and excited to hear what you have to say for all of us today.
Great, thank you. I thought about how to do this seminar. I told Josh, maybe I'll do it just with some drawing, but I realized that you're right, Josh, because this is part of my research portfolio and also coaching leadership brand. So I would like to give you maybe just a little bit a framework, but I will not try to occupy the space. So Joshua, what is our setup? How long do I have today?
Yeah, about 25, 30 minutes is all yours.
And then we have Q&A, right?
And then we'll do Q&A.
Yeah. So I think the good way to make this happen and make us more engaged is that when you listen quickly, probably we'll talk about some questions as well. And I think asking questions maybe is a more effective way of learning. So I'm going to share screen to go over some of the framework, the way how I think about what is person brand from a little bit of my personal experience. So today, I put the word beyond, so which means that it's more than the here and now. Is what about next? So I'll talk about based on what happened, what I think person brands are. I'm going to go over some anecdote of myself. I don't know when you introduced me. This is from ULFM. They have a newsletter. And you can actually Google that article, talk about person brands. So there's some, they call it persona. So this is me. Yeah, I was having this crazy hairstyle back then. And then I put on my LinkedIn. I think there were 2,000 views. Sometimes I've been more than that. And then I talk about this company my Chinese company is about a female leadership accelerator, coaching female CEOs and the founders. This is kind of in a very upscale 66 story Armani. It really is from Armani, Giorgio Armani, kind of a suite, and it's the top floor a club. My students actually own the club, so I was giving speeches. And this is somewhere in China. So, and also this is also about my own company. We're doing a lot of leadership training, and we introduce high power authors. This is one of my friend Adam Glansky from Columbia University. So all these are kind of attempts. So then we talk about what is a person brand. So this is Norbert Schwartz. I mean, these are the people, but why do I highlight them, right? So because person, brands, person, what's the relationship? But we see these names on your Facebook, on TikTok, Instagram. They're repeated messages from someone that you pay attention to. These are the three I highlight. So then we go further, that I'm going to start by a few questions. First of all, what is the algorithm? What is the logic on these LinkedIn, on these social media? Why do I keep getting some posts from these people? This is something we're going to talk about at the very end, because without knowing the algorithm of all these social media, you probably wouldn't be able to build a very effective person brand in the online space, and not to say company as well. I can also quickly talk about the project we did with Deborah and also with other professor about this small business consulting project we did. There's no exception, especially the 4 teams or 4 companies we work with. All they want is social media presence. They don't have one. They don't have a systematic approach. So this today, what we discuss is maybe more than person brand, but also we can discuss the corporate brand, the brand that you probably want to work for or with, or as a consulting firm to help. So then I'm going to throw a few questions. Am I a brand? Are you a brand? That's number one. Number two, if you are a brand, one thing we do know is that to whom you are a brand to. So which means that, you have a target audience, which means that a person's influence is within certain segment of the audience. For example, Deborah is very known in the city, right? As a female leader, so what about you? Are you known to whom? So I may be in a female leadership kind of segment. I don't know how many of you are on Clubhouse. I'm one of the middle KOL that the people would associate. It's a female leadership coach, female leadership KOL, opinion leader. So to those people, so my club on Clubhouse, it's called WVC because I have an accelerator company. So it's for women only. So which means that when I invite people to go to my club, I only invite female leaders. And then the question is, how do I define leaders? But it's very clear. And so then what is my name, right? So I think in Chinese, my name is very symmetrical. So we have a Chinese pronunciation. But when I registered on Clubhouse, I don't know why. Maybe I was trying to break the clutter, draw more attention. So I put a name Dr. Wan. So now it is Dr. Wan. So then, it's Dr. Wan, Fang Wan. Am I the same? And also, most importantly, how do you make it an evolution? How would you kind of, I don't know even what is the word. How does that evolution happen? How does it crafting? I mean, there's some crafting as well. Is a person the same as a brand? So these are the questions I want to throw, because tomorrow, you're welcome to my show. I do have a podcast show there too. Is that the title of that show is tomorrow is are you a leader versus a KOL versus a person brand? What are you? So obviously there's some differences there. So I hope that today I can spend some time to make sure I can cover some of the key points, but I'll be more than happy to open up for discussion. So when we talk of person brand, I'm not happy with a lot of literature, but one thing we do know, person brand is probably very close to a celebrity, right? So you Google them, these are the people, Harry, Meghan, talk about these leaders. I talk about, and this is my favorite, Sheryl Sandberg and Martha Stewart. These are female kind of leaders. I mean, they have their own setups and vulnerabilities and scandal with Martha Stewart. But I think the key question here is that maybe if you're a person brand, you can show up on Google search. Can you? I don't know. So you can try it, right? So the 3 people I talked about earlier on my Facebook that I really pay attention to me, they are person brands, are my friends. One is, Wharton professor. One is she's going to go to, by the way, she's amazing. She's going to Stanford. She's at the University of University of Maryland. She's going to give us a speech on May 7th. And he did a very big webinar last month. I invited. So you Google them. They have a Wikipedia. So if you say, Professor Wang, you don't have Wikipedia. So you see, we actually start having these metrics that are the kind of measurement of what is a person brand. Do you have a Wikipedia? When can I Google you? Can I find you? So if you Google me, if you use my Chinese name in the Canadian website, you probably may not, you're going to identify me less accurately because it's in Canada. So if you do Fang Wan, you probably will land on my page right away. But if you do my Chinese name, you may not be able to, right? So this is another funny story. This is my son. And I cannot believe one day he said, I'm not happy because, now he's much older. He said, I hate these baby fat pictures. I'm on Google. So I'm like, wow. So now, he's a hockey player. So, but is that, he's only about 13 years old. Is he a person brand? So this is, we're growing our knowledge. Probably Google search can search you is one small facet. But what are these other facets of, a person brand? So I'm going to go right into it. And I want to give two frameworks. In the business brand, this is how we measure like a Tesla. We talk about Apple, we talk about, Lululemon, we talk about the Zara, we talk about the Sephora, etc. So the brand actually in the business world, I have a 3A framework, which means that how many people know you, like how many people heard about you. So that's why exposure, right? So today's event, how many people see the event? How many people is aware that I'm going to give a person brand talk today, right? So that's number one, right? So like for a brand, how many people know about you? So everybody knows Donald Trump, right? Almost everybody. So that's the first layer is it's an exposure, how well known are you, and most importantly is that how frequent you appear as well. Why Donald Trump is known because, he basically, while in his leadership, he appears every day. So what is the frequency of your appearance? Going where? Where do you appear? I give an example of social media. A lot of my friends are saying, students say, Instagram, going to Facebook, going to LinkedIn, Chinese TikTok, Chinese blog, Chinese WeChat. So I am not very keen on the mass social media because I provide a knowledge. I'm an opinion leader for very specialized business professionals. So in English medium, I choose LinkedIn. I was very active, I want to share. But then the thing is, what I like about LinkedIn is you can see how many people view, like how many people actually saw the post. Whether they like it or comment, that's a different caliber. So my research also shows what's the difference between like and also comments and also view. But viewing that not commenting, not liking is not a bad thing at all. It means that how that post reach how many audience, and that is, we call it awareness. The second level is very important, which is more invisible, is what are you known for? And this is very important, is that, Professor Wang, marketing, branding, female leadership. And now I am very devoted to Clubhouse because I think the audience are exactly my kind of audience. They're business professionals, they're entrepreneurs, and they're investors. They're all business related and much more focused, right? So when we think about, so what are you known for? Then the question is, what is causing that reputation? Okay, why do people know that you are a female leadership coach? Why do people know you're in this space? Where do you exist? In what space? And this is very important. And one answer that I have for you is that because of your communication, because what you put out there. If you are very diverse, one day it's fashion, another is about travel, and then maybe you are that lifestyle influencer, or is it's about business education, it's about entrepreneurship. But one thing we do know that if I have 5 posts and every post is about the different things, well, maybe it's very difficult for people to know what are you known for, because maybe you're not so sure what are you. So this is very interesting that I talk about the 3 things here, is that what you post is the outcome of what you think you are, and what you post also create the perception of you. And this is really very interconnected pieces. The last part is attachment. Why it's a brand pyramid? Why it's a pyramid? Because the upper, the more difficult, right? You can say random things and people hear you, but then how much they retain and create a perception of who you are. And then they're so depending on you. This is really crazy. On Clubhouse, whenever I'm in the room, I can see that my members of a club, they just come. When I'm in the room for more than 20 minutes, I can see increasing number of the room increase. So that means there's some people, and it's really funny. Clubhouse is very interesting social media. I would urge you all to check it out. It's great for entrepreneurs. It's great for investors as well. But what is really interesting is it's really communal. I love that. It's a community. So very active users quickly become a community. When they have room, they talk about what is the best program this week, which KOL, which person brand is really interesting. They also say some negative things too. So a lot of people say, oh, I really enjoy Dr. Wan. Every time when she speak, there's just so much, insight. And I always, people say there's so many rooms, which one do you go to? They're saying, oh, actually, I just look at if Dr. Wan is in that room, I'll go. So this is something related to that, right? Like the brand, like, for example, a lot of my students are very into Zara because it's so easy. You have an app, right? You can return stuff, and but Zara, the app and also Sephora may not be as smart, because if you built in the AI, it will be even smarter, which means that, this is what you like last time, and I give you a recommendation, save a lot of search time, and really give you what you exactly want, very fitting to your preference. And these kind of platform brands, a lot of app brands build a lot of attachment and dependence and trust because of this customization. And so this is also very important. So as a person, again, so let's review this framework. Is that how many people know about you? What are you known for? And lastly is how many people are your fans that are very loyal? I'm not going to be politically correct, but I think this guy is residing when he was in his campaign, Trump was at this level. Why do I say that, right? So when we look at the data, this is the Hillary Clinton, we have a lot of data, and then Trump, this is Trump supporter. When you look at the data, the blue one is Hillary and the Trump is red. Just to make the story very short, it's very clear the Trump supporter living in a smaller town, less educated, et cetera, anti-global, et cetera, really create a very strong fan base in a way that, here we're talking about basically the anti-globalization. This is a hardcore supporter. And so Trump is creating such a following here. So one thing we understand is, why people are really becoming your fans, because maybe what you believe in, your content, what you do fit into the values of your target segment. And I think that's also very important. That's the first framework. The second framework I want to build is very simple, is from my organization brand, and look at, actually, to me, a person brand is composed of a few components. So we see a lot of KOL, but are they truly person brand? So we're talking about a truly solid person brand, and I gave you 3 prototypes, and that's how I want you to take away. The 3 prototypes are based on 3 dimensions. One is externally, are you visible? We call it fame. Internally, what is your competence? What is your ability? Are you the TED Talk speaker because you are doing social entrepreneurship? You go to Africa, you help a lot of people. Or is it because you're a professor from Harvard, because you're extremely brilliant, you have a lot of books? So you need to have this reservoir of abilities and competence to really push out for your fame. And if you are a media influencer, your content is really vibrant, you can dance really well, your gourmet chef and your dishes are like art. And all these fame are associated with some capabilities. And this is something I want you to know. It's not that easy to be KOL because you have accumulated knowledge and expertise. And lastly, we talk about the values. What do you believe in? Do you actually talk about that at all? So is it all these things that you talk about associated with your belief? What kind of belief you have? And these are the 3 dimensions and 3 types I want to talk about. So let's go to the first one. I gave you the first one, I call it the shell, which means that, you know what, suddenly you become famous. And that can happen because of one video, because of one event, because maybe you've been existing underneath, but suddenly there is a breakout point. So I want to just quickly talk about this guy, because this guy is a Chinese how do I call it, is a live streamer. So he sell cosmetics. He's a man, he sells cosmetics. He can sell 15,000 lipsticks within 5 minutes. And a lot of people try to compete with him. The celebrity, very famous, a movie star, nobody compete with him. And one thing we talk about these KOL, talking about these thing is that this is Amazon, because these live streaming is extremely popular in Asia. So Amazon starting last year having the live stream, like the video, so that it right now it's more like a TV shopping, like a network shopping. But actually in Asia, this is where KOL is taking place. And actually my friend and I were actually working on creating KOL kind of a boot camp. So we're going to choose different verticals. This is for electronics, this is for cosmetics, and these are for home kitchen kind of products, so that we actually pick the KOL and we're going to package them, and we're going to show them how to do the live broadcast, and we're going to connect to all the brands that want to sign them up. So it become a KOL school and agents, right? So this is the person brand that we know or most familiar is the KOL, working on this space. And also we do have some instant fame. So this is one of the shell model, because I call it fame because it's very easy to come up and be famous, but without a substantial component, it will sink as well. So this is a bad example. I want you to check her out as an entrepreneur. And this is on my book club as well. You should read her. Again, this is really more fame-based. There is no substance, and people really fall into that, the trap, this bad blood, the Elizabeth Holmes is like, everybody should read this and learn from it. But so I want to say there's one way with this KOL or shell-based model, it really something you need to understand. It exists in the platform brand, which means all the social media platform. So one thing you do know is that, yes, you need to understand the algorithm. You do know when to put a post and what is the style of your post. I mean, in Q&A, we can talk more about it. And then what is your media strategy? What is your social media strategy? Not only for you as a person brand, but also for companies as well. They need to be there. The problem here is that it's not easy. I want you to know, on part of my company, what do we do is try to figure out the algorithm, because based on the algorithm, we know how they push the content. We know when to do our posting. We know how we communicate with our fan, and we need to do it very frequently, extremely exhausting. So the bottom line is there's a high intelligence, high frequency, high AI based. And I think, this is next step we want to do is our human brain is not enough. So we're going to bring AI engineer to help us to manage our social media content, because our machine will beat with the algorithm of the social media machine. And I'm not going to just post it. My machine, my AI will just post our content. We have a reservoir of content. For example, if there is a very big brand name, Bill Gates on LinkedIn saying this keyword, and then we have a lot of content in our reservoir, and he's saying AI, he's saying future, the virtual space for a brand. He's talking about the token economics and these kind of content. We're going to push it out there and put our posts. So there are a lot of that part as well. Now, the second part, I want to call it the rock, which means that the fame of the brand is truly associated with a competence. Okay. So what are the competence? I'll give an example. So this is why the true famous brand, person brand floating around are these business tycoon or because very simply that the result driven, their business success really drive that fame. So then going back to what you are saying out there is associated with your performance, your competence, credibility in some domain. So this is, I think, is very important that to remember. These are the people you don't know, but they're very famous in different segments. So here, if you are competence-based, expertise-based, maybe you're known to a small circle, right? So this is, again, I keep saying, what is your segment? So these key opinion leaders tend to be the knowledge creators and tend to really have a lot of reputation and credibility. And people, I don't know whether you can Google creator economy. So Shopify, Facebook, Zuckerberg, and Spotify, and also Clubhouse founders recently have a very big meeting talking about this era is for creator economy, and creators are person brands, artists and musicians, etc. So we're going back to, okay, so the KOL is backed up by their expertise in a very specific domain. So now we know person brand is not just a fame, not just a shell. There is very accumulated, a long time expertise that back up their appearance and back up their known association of what they are known for. That is the one. Lastly, I want to talk about star, which means a true person brand endure the test of time, right? So which means there was something all aligned. I call the star model. Very quickly, a lot of leaders, look at these people, they may die, they may go away, but their legend will remain because they were they really strike the chord by having, and this is some from Chinese example, it's a Chinese enterprise. And we talk about this one, Hawkins. And one thing about these guys are, there are a lot of physicists, there are a lot of Nobel Prize winners, but he really wanted people to understand the science. So he has this that very widely spread books and his speeches is legendary. So we're talking about the values of belief. I just want to share this quote because a lot of Nobel Prize winners, extraordinary people, and I'm very touched by this quote. I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to share two more pictures and we can conclude for Q&A. Is that for these brands, not only Nobel Prize winners, they want to leave their trace in the sky of human civilization in spite of clusters of stars. They do not mind climbing small mountains thousands of times. When they set off, the goal is a peak of Everest mountain. In their lifetime, only reaching the peak once is enough. We're talking about the dreams, we talk about the visions, we talk about the beliefs, and all these, they're very inspirational. So we do have these kind of true brands that can endure the test of time. One thing is why we need to build a person brand. And I just want to quickly say two things. As an entrepreneur, when you do financing, in China particularly, and also as much as in the West, the entrepreneur who start as a celebrity status is a KOL, their company, the return and the funding is much more successful compared to a founder who has zero brand leverage. That is already shown in the research. So obviously a founder has a person brand, create a sense of credibility, create sense of influence if you need the help, the resources. Most importantly, you are really, really efficient at grabbing resources. And then I'm going to conclude by two slides. This is something I really feel is very important, is a shift of the paradigm. Pre-digital era, you have your shop. So you go there, right? So people go to your store. It's very much like a brand, your product brand, your company brand is driving this. You find the right medium, so it's like like it's a top down. The digital social media era is all about the data. It's an ocean of data. So with this data, there is algorithm of the platform such as Facebook. So brand has to really fit into that algorithm. And more than that, brand presence is not as powerful as influencer. That's why we call about influencer marketing. And a few years back, it was a trend. Now this is the only trend. So the influencer, the big KOL, they really endorse your brand. They talk about your brand champion. So this is how the brand space is subsiding now in the bottom and hop onto the data, the algorithm, and the influencer. And these are person brands. So this is number one trend. Number two, I just want to say, where do you find these influencers? How do you become the influencers? And I think because today, and I don't know whether you go to Clubhouse and TikTok, I think, as a young founders, I don't know how many of you out there, I probably want to stop here, just say, lastly, I just want you to know the power, the monopoly. Very unfortunately, the online retail all belong to these people now. The Amazon, Shopify, Chinese Taobao, and then the Pinduoduo. So these two continents, extremely powerful, two AI countries. And I'm very happy that Shopify is from Canadian, kind of a startup. So we're really talking about these platform brands are monopolizing the space, and the product brand is hopping onto the platform brand. So this is not a good era for product brand, company brand. It is really about a platform brand. So anyway, my class, when I teach brand management, I actually encourage my student to build platform companies and APP companies, APP brand, so that you can be a potential unicorn, because Airbnb started, Uber started, all from a simple APP. So this is what I think is very powerful. Again, there's so much unknown, but I think these are some thoughts that I have on this topic. I hope it's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Wan. Really appreciate it. Really great insight and great information. Just to encourage everyone on the call, if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. But Professor Wan, I'm going to start with one just more on the side of, as entrepreneurs on the call and that are starting to build businesses and startups, they're really focused on building that more business brand. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs forget to also at the same time be building their personal brand at the same time. Do you have any tips in terms of action steps that individuals and entrepreneurs can focus on in terms of where to actually start to build their personal brand? Like, what if they were to do one or two things a week or something? What would be that starting point while they're working on building their business brand too?
I think, first of all, one thing you do know that as a founder, especially, it doesn't matter, you're going to find your team. I think it's very important to have a team, or you're going to go to the financing, raising capital phase. Either way, it is a true entrance for you as a person, as a leader, as a founder, that when you try to say, Josh, I need a media person. Do you want to join my team? And Josh, this first angel round, I just need to raise 100,000. So you forget that you cannot be a vehicle of that idea. How many times, I'm working with a lot of VC leaders from Silicon Valley to Africa to China. They need to know who you are. And it's really ironic. I have my partner actually in China, and he is stuck as on the air flight. And I said, why don't you just do a Zoom? He said, no, I need to be in the same space. I need to feel, I need to see micro facial expression. I need to feel this person. So we forget that the person as a founder is the first and foremost face of this business idea that you're proposing. Without a credibility, without a competence, without trust, this idea will not be pushed through. So which means this is a very important part, is that to build that presence, people can search you, on the social media space, articulate your ideas, make people feel you're an expert in that area, accumulate knowledge, but deliver that knowledge, express that knowledge, so they understand that you know what you're doing. And I think that's very important.
Absolutely. Wait, when you started on your first slide, you said and beyond, which I thought was really interesting. Where do you see personal branding going in the future? Do you think it is going to always be on that next up and coming platform like Clubhouse, or what do you see the future for personal branding looking like?
Person brands are going to be vehicles and carriers of product brands. Person brands will be bigger than company brands. And Elon Musk said Dogecoin, how many people are buying it? Elon Musk, as a person, people are basically saying his influence is more than the CEO of a company, much more than sometimes the president of a country, which is so true. Elon Musk asked you to go to Clubhouse. How many people after he posts on Twitter? How many people after he announced he's an investor? So this is the area truly for person to have a lot of influence. And when you imagine if you have, let's say, you have the following, not only on social media, personal network, right? So if you're known in the VC area, you're the person they look for deep tech, they look for clean tech, they look for consumer tech. Who do you go to? So it is about the reputation based on interpersonal network as well. You have to be out there. So the second point is very important is how would you build a person brand? It doesn't exist in your own illusion. It exists in the minds of others. In order to exist in the minds of others, you need to be out there. You need to promote yourself. You need to communicate with people. You need to let people know who you are, both offline and online, so that you occupy that perception space, so that when people think about the sector, you are the first name that pop up in that mind space. That's where opportunities come. So I really urge people to be very aware of that logic.
I really like that. That's really good thought process. We have two questions in the chat here. First one is, with multiple social media platforms, how do you stay up to date with new features? Do you spend time once a week or a month to research new users for social media or new uses for social media platforms?
The challenge, what you're saying is, it's not in terms of day, in terms of seconds, in terms of 24/7. And actually, I think people didn't realize traditional media. I talked to TV station, I talked to radio host. My brand will be plugged there. It is very singular, very sequential kind of process. When there's a social media, you really don't know what's happening. So now, a very important form of the company that we're connecting to China is called MCN. So these kind of company is actually basically they're the management of a content, and you work with them, and they're using their AI. They drop your content, so you need to have a reservoir of content. So so this is a very good question, because every medium is very different. We know Instagram is more picture, more artistic, very minimum text. Facebook is really about your friends and the family. You know, your first round of finance, maybe, you know, that's where you like kickstart kind of, you know, it's much more social and interpersonally connected. And then you go to TikTok, is all over, it's a video based. How would you create a short video? And then you go to LinkedIn, it has its own algorithm. So the answer to that is yes. One of the case I use is actually a Hunger Game. A lot of these we call it the TV entertainment content brand. When they roll out this movie, these people are much more capable of doing what we call the transmedia content management and a push. So Tumblr, you know, so the answer to that is, when you don't have a lot of resources and energy, you probably want to pick on one social media that your core users are there. And they're right now based more on age than anything. Snap, for example. So so LinkedIn is for professionals, and I think that's legit. But for your end user consumer, just very bear in mind where there's space. And Facebook much older, and also the content is very different. Twitter, for example. So you have to really make that first choice, is your core segment of your business. Where are they? what do they use and what kind of content that attract them. So the second part is once you pick one medium, you probably will do a lot of experimentation. It's like A/B testing. You know, if I say this, what is attraction, how many likes, and if I do that, you know, if this topic and that topic, you basically become a research institute within yourself that you need to understand the causality. If I do A, it'll give me B. If you want a bigger B, what should I do with A? Extremely logical. So this is why Asper School now launch a lot of analytics, you know. So basically, traditionally, we think marketing, branding is more creative, but now I'm so sorry, it is moving to more data driven. Yeah.
Absolutely. Very well said. I think it's so important that as entrepreneurs build out their marketing strategies, they really understand where their audience is and what platforms are used to best reach their audience. Very well said. And you're right. I like the comment too about marketing going, it's transitioned so much to more data and analytics based. And I think that's one of the best, most powerful things about the digital space is all the data and analytics you can get to make informed decisions. So that's super cool. Next question in the chat is from Janet, and Janet is asking, what would be the advantage or disadvantages as a female entrepreneur in terms of personal branding?
I don't want to go to the detail. We know the data globally, the funds, only 3% goes to female founders. Only 3%. Okay. So you ask question, what's wrong? And then maybe you understand why I empower female leaders, female founders. So I was in a room, in a program, there are a lot of men on the stage. And there was a female founder was saying, you know, I have this app sharing dreams, you know, and everybody, when you have a dream, you speak to the app and you record a dream. And, you know, all the dreams, the content, like Joshua saying, pay me, hey, I just dropped a dream. So finally like, wow, Joshua, that's a crazy dream. So it's not more than it's a social connectivity. It's also about all these content creator, right? I'm doing a movie. I want to write a novel. I need to know what people think. What are the dreams? So it's a great app, right? So they're going to share that dream content, maybe subscription based for producers, novelists, you know, etc. So it's very creative. So I remember that day, and I was in a lot of pitches as well, and I'm going to run another one next week. So so then the founder was saying, I try very hard, but then the investor was saying, you know, why don't you reshape the narrative? This is too female oriented. Okay, so try to change the narrative. So then the investors were giving advice saying, you know, just to do this way or that way, giving a lot of advice. And I'm saying, you know, business exists. Yes, you invest in companies. Some companies are very successful, but also remember, it's because you're a man and this is your vision of what the business should look like. If I'm a female investor, and I would look at the project in a very different way. You don't know whether this business will be successful or not. In other words, it is very subjective decision based on some rational data driven, but it's still very subjective. So I don't have a short answer, but the systemic inequality and lacking presence in the investor space for female is a big problem. That's why we're lining up with female investor leaders from UK, from Hong Kong, globally, from Africa, from Europe, and now we're building up that very strong presence of the female investor space so that we can fund more female projects. And I think that, I don't know whether it's the answer, but that's the direction we're going.
Well, you're doing great work in that space, and thank you so much for everything that you're doing in that space. You really are empowering female entrepreneurs. I think that's fantastic. Last question for you in the chat is, do you still recommend having a traditional website for a new business, or is social media sufficient with app integration?
I think you need both. Put it that way, social media, your presence is depending on Facebook. So it actually is not you're renting a space from Facebook. You don't have a house. Traditional website is really where people think you're legit because that's your company. In today's world, maybe your company is much more substantial to have a website, maybe not even have an office and a building. So I think traditional website functionality is really about the legitimacy. I think it's still necessary, but the function of it, maybe you don't have a lot of volume, maybe actually your social media presence of your company, if you're under LinkedIn, you can have, Stu Clark, maybe you have a lot of traffic there than your website, but your website is your independent presence in the digital space. I think it's necessary. But when the business grow really fast, so then the brand is with beyond the social media platform, and then people go to your website, ask questions, and then you can say, we're going to sell something, Stu Clark, right? We're going to sell t-shirt, we can do whatever. So all the commerce would happen on your own website, or you can go to Amazon. But my personal view is it would be very nice to have one.
Awesome. Finally, before we conclude here, any books that you recommend on personal branding that are your favorite, or additional resources out there for anyone on the call listening to further learn?
I personally, actually the second graph of I don't see very good person branding books. I really don't, because I think most importantly is about the social media traffic and social media management. I don't have, but I do, for entrepreneur, I do want to recommend a book called Surviving the Startup, and the book just launched. And Steve Hoffman, Captain Hoff, is actually my collaborator on Clubhouse, and his company called Founders Space. So he's quite extraordinary. I did a kind of podcast interview him, and the book is called Surviving the Startup. It's on Amazon. I think you guys should check it out. You would really enjoy it. There it talks about leadership of a founder and as an entrepreneur. And I think that the leadership piece in that book speaks something about what I talk about the person brand.
That's fantastic. I wrote that down. I'm definitely going to check that out. Thank you so much. Well, Professor Wan, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you taking the time and sharing all of your great insight into this space. Thank you so much for all that you're doing and all the work that you're doing. It's inspiring and really great, and making a large impact. And you yourself have built a fantastic personal brand as well. So thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who tuned in and joined us today. Appreciate you taking the time, and we'll see you next time, and enjoy the rest of the day, everyone.
Thank you for having me. Bye for now.